Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my college football playoff quarterfinal predictions. So, in the first round, I had a record of 3-1, and that brings my record on the season to 215-54. Kicking things off with the Fiesta Bowl, we have Penn State against Boise State. So, Penn State, they're 12-2, and they're coming off a dominant win over SMU in the first round, where they won 38-10. They now face a Boise State team that won the Mountain West at 12-1, and they've won 11 games in a row. But I think this should be a pretty good game. Penn State, they've been playing very well offensively, as they're scoring 40 points per game in their last three games and 33.9 points per game on the season. Penn State, they also run the ball very effectively, rushing for 201 yards per game. They don't face a Boise State defense that's solid, allowing 21.9 points per game, and they're pretty good against the run, allowing 115 rushing yards per game. Although, Boise State, they're not good against the pass, allowing nearly 250 passing yards per game. Then on the flip side, Boise State's offense is great. They're the third best scoring offense in the country, as they're scoring 39.1 points per game. And they have a great run game, rushing for 250 yards per game, and they're led by Heisman runner-up Aston Jeanty, as he ran for 2,497 yards and 29 touchdowns so far this year. But Jeanty and the Boise State offense matches up against a good Penn State defense that is allowing just 15.9 points per game, and they're great against the run, allowing 100 rushing yards per game. Although Penn State, they have allowed over 180 rushing yards to both Oregon and Ohio State. But this is a very tough game to predict, but I am actually going to take Boise State to get the win. I think Aston Jeanty will have another good game despite playing against a great run defense, because defenses all year have been trying to stop Aston Jeanty, and they still haven't been able to do so. But I think Aston Jeanty leads Boise State to the semifinals, and Boise State beats Penn State by a score of 27-23. Moving on to the Peach Bowl, where we have Texas against Arizona State. So Arizona State is having a great year. They're 11-2 and Big 12 champions, and we don't get to see them in the playoffs for the first time. Arizona State's offense is good, scoring 33.1 points per game, and they're led by a great run game with running back Cam Scatabo. As Scatabo, so far this year, has run for 1,568 yards and 19 touchdowns. And Arizona State as a team, they're rushing for 198 yards per game and 4.8 yards per carry. But Scatabo and the Arizona State offense face a great Texas defense, as Texas has the number 2 scoring defense in the country, allowing just 13.3 points per game, and they're also great at stopping the run, allowing just 104 rushing yards per game and 3.1 yards per carry. Then on the other side, Texas is pretty good offensively, scoring 33.9 points per game, and they face an Arizona State defense that's pretty solid, allowing 21.3 points per game. But I am going to take Texas to get the win here. I think they'll slow down Cam Scatabo, and if Scatabo doesn't have a great game, I just don't see Arizona State doing much offensively, and I just don't think Arizona State is going to be able to keep up with Texas. I think Texas wins this game pretty easily by a score of 34-13. Moving on to the Rose Bowl, where we have Ohio State against Oregon. So this is another really interesting game. Oregon, they're the only undefeated team in the country, as they're 13-0, and they face an Ohio State team that is 11-2, but they're coming off a huge win over Tennessee, winning 42-17, and if they play like they did in the first round, I'm not sure Ohio State is beatable. But these teams met earlier in the year, with Oregon winning 32-31, and that game was in Oregon. But I think this should be another close game, and this should be a really good game. Offensively for Oregon, they're scoring 35.9 points per game, and they have a great passing game, throwing for 278 passing yards per game. But Ohio State, they have the best scoring defense in the country, allowing 11.4 points per game, and they're also the top passing defense, allowing just 141 passing yards per game. Although in the first meeting, Oregon, they threw the ball very effectively with 341 passing yards. Then on the flip side, Ohio State, they're also great offensively, as they're scoring 36 points per game, and in the first round, they maybe had their best offensive game of the season, with 42 points and 473 total yards against a great Tennessee defense. But Ohio State, they face another good defense, as Oregon is allowing 17.8 points per game. But this is a very tough game to predict, and for me, this was the toughest game to predict here in the quarterfinal. But despite both teams being pretty good defensively, I think this will be a higher scoring game, very similar to their first matchup. But I'm going to go with the offense I trust more, and that's Oregon. They've been great all year, they're undefeated. I trust Dylan Gabriel and the Oregon offense to make more plays than Will Howard and Ohio State. This game can definitely go either way, but I've got Oregon remaining undefeated and advancing to the semifinals with a 35-31 win. And our final game, we have the Sugar Bowl, and that is Notre Dame against Georgia. So this is another really tough game to predict and a really interesting game. Notre Dame, they're 12-1 and on an 11-game winning streak, while Georgia is 11-2 and SEC champions. Although Georgia, they will be playing with their backup quarterback Gunnar Stockton, as Carson Beck is out for the year with an elbow injury. But Gunnar Stockton will be making his first career college start, and he's actually the first ever quarterback to make his first start in a playoff game. But Stockton makes his first start against a very good Notre Dame defense. Georgia's offense is good, scoring 33.3 points per game, and they've relied on the pass so far this year, passing for 284 yards per game, and they really haven't run the ball effectively, rushing for just 129 yards per game. Now, that could be a problem for Georgia when you consider the fact they're playing with a backup quarterback, plus Notre Dame has a top 3 pass defense, allowing 162 passing yards per game. Notre Dame, they're also the third best scoring defense in the country, allowing 13.8 points per game. Then on the flip side, Notre Dame's offense is great, scoring 38.8 points per game, which ranks 4th, and Notre Dame, they rely on the run, rushing for 222 yards per game. But Georgia, they're good defensively, and especially against the run, as they're allowing 20.4 points per game and just 3.7 yards per carry. But despite the good run defense for Georgia, I still think Notre Dame will be able to run the football, for a couple of reasons. One, Notre Dame ran for 193 yards in the first round against Indiana, and that was an Indiana team that was the best defense against the run. The second reason I think Notre Dame will run the ball effectively is Georgia, they've really struggled against mobile quarterbacks, as they've allowed 117 yards to Jalen Milroe, they allowed 50 yards to Jackson Dart, who is playing on one good ankle, and they allowed 110 to Haynes King. And Notre Dame quarterback Ryan Leonard is a great rushing quarterback, as he has 751 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns on the season. But this is another game that could really go either way. Because I think Notre Dame will run the ball effectively, I think their offense will find success, and I just don't think Gunnar Stockton and Georgia's offense will be able to do that much against an elite Notre Dame defense. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to beat Georgia and get the win by a score of 24-13. And we'll be having a live watch party for every single college football playoff game, not only this round, but for the entire rest of the playoffs. So be sure to subscribe and you don't miss that. But that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Happy New Year to all you guys watching. But thank you guys for watching. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.